You are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxshall, in which I chronicle my life and attempts to become a professional writer by, doing some writing, daily, hopefully. Hello, today is Monday the 23rd of December 2024. It's 2 days before Christmas, for God's sake. Welcome to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, and yes, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona again, and you will definitely hear from me from this lovely place again. This is the last podcast. This is the last proper daily podcast this year. And I thought I'd just take an opportunity to look back on what I've achieved since I started doing this podcast. So the idea was basically to help me get into better habits around writing, and it's been a sort of mixed bag of success. So I mean, I did sort of a similar look back in show 100, however long ago that was, and I had achieved quite a lot, and I think I've achieved less in the second batch of 100 episodes, purely because I just think my mental health hasn't been amazing, and I haven't really set myself any targets, and so the thing I'm going to do differently next year, I'm going to come back in January. So basically, this is the last daily podcast, as I said. But before, let me just get my phone out. Before I disappear, I will tell you what is coming up in the next few days. So I have pre-recorded quite a while ago, in some cases, the remaining podcasts to come out this year. So I've not numbered them. This is the last numbered. This is show 200. But you've got 3 bonus episodes coming out over the next few days. Hang on, I've got the release schedule on my phone when I press the right button. Right, so on Christmas Day itself, you don't have to listen to it on Christmas Day, you'd be mad to, in fact. You've got my year in music. This includes my Spotify Wrapped podcast. So I don't know if this is only for premium members or if everybody who uses Spotify gets it, but they did me a 5-minute podcast talking about my taste in music for the year and the things I've listened to, and it's done by 2 AI presenters. It's clearly computer generated because there's a couple of minor glitches in the way it speaks, but it's pretty good. So I've included that and then told you why it's wrong. So that's on Christmas Day. 27th of December, I've done a bonus called My Year in Books, which literally just talks about the books I've read this year. And then coming out on the 29th, is one of my Doctor Who and the Bill short stories called Dead Presumed Missing. And that's out on the 29th. So all of those are pre-recorded, uploaded. So even if I were to disappear off the face of the earth, those would now still release. And then coming out, there is a trailer dropping as well for season 2, because it's going to be so different. So that's all automatically programmed into the bit of software I use that releases the podcasts. So what have I achieved since I've been doing this podcast? I'm just whizzing back on the list and trying to even work out when I started it now. It was a while ago. So the first episode went out on the 22nd of April 2024. And it's been a turbulent year. Because episode 43, I believe, no, it was later than that. No, it was before that. Hang on, I'm just looking. But there was an episode that really shaped the rest of it was episode 23, actually, that really shaped, and not in a good way, my mental health this year. So a friend of mine, very, very good friend of mine, very unexpectedly died. And that really, I would say, is the root cause for all the issues I've been having this year. And although I was still quite productive between show 23 when it happened and 100, So anyway, what have I achieved? So the main thing I've achieved this year is nearly finishing the first draft of Empress of the Trees. Now, this is an ecological thriller. It's a big story. It's all about the end of the world. There are a lot of characters in it that are some of my favourite characters I've ever created. Having said that, every time I write a book, that seems to happen, which is good, because I think if I didn't like or were motivated to, make stuff happen to my characters, then there would be no story. Sorry, just taking a sip of coffee, and by the sounds of it, receiving an email. Sorry about that. I thought that was turned off. Yeah, so I started looking at this now. I started editing this last year, but I really got back into it this year, and I'm looking at this now. Yeah, so it wasn't until roughly when I started the podcast. In fact, it's the same date, or within. Oh no, it isn't actually. Yeah, it is within 3 days. It's within 3 days of me starting the podcast. So I started editing chapter 19 of Empress of the Trees. Now, what I used to do was I used to write my entire book, and then once I'd completed the first draft, edited it, because that's what writing tournaments like NaNoWriMo have told me to do. But what I have noticed is that the editing process then feels like pulling your teeth out without any anaesthetic. So, and I did that twice. I did that with English Hikikomori, which is finished, and with Still Life, which still needs one last edit. And so I decided, after the experience of writing Still Life, and also looking at what my friend Tani, who writes the Bow Street Society Mystery, does, she basically writes a chapter, then edits a chapter. In fact, I think she writes scenes and then edits scenes. But I decided to move to a write-edit model where I would write a chapter and then edit the chapter. So it's taken me a long time. I actually started it on the 1st of January last year. I started editing Empress of the Trees. And last year I did 18 chapters. This year I've done the rest and then started writing some more. So I edited, I think, I'm just trying to work out how far I'd got. I think I'd written 30, I think I did 12. I'm just looking at the manuscript I've got sitting in front of me now. And there's another text come in. Anyway, yeah, sorry, just procrastinating. Yeah, so I basically edited another 12 chapters today, taking me up to this year, taking me up to chapter 31, and then since then I've actually written another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 complete chapters, and edited those chapters, and I'm currently working on chapter 38. It'd be nice to finish it this year, even if I do have a sudden sort of massive desire to write. I'm not going to podcast it. I'll talk about it in the new year when I come back. But basically, it's tantalisingly near, and I think one of my friends has sort of said, well, maybe it's because you're not looking forward to not spending time with these characters, and there could be something in that, because I really, really like this group of characters. Some of them are going to die, some of them are going to survive. I know exactly what's going to happen in the epilogue. As I say, I've got the current chapter I'm writing, chapter 38, to write. It's either going to be a massive chapter or split into two, haven't decided. Then there's one chapter after that which kind of mops up the last few bits and pieces, and then there's an epilogue. So in theory I could write those in a few weeks. We shall see if I do or not. Yeah. And then the other thing I did actually get around to doing this year, although I didn't follow through with it, which is another thing I intend to get back into next year, is I submitted Still Life to 6 agents. It took a while, but I ultimately got 6 rejections back, but that's fine. J.K. Rowling tried dozens before. Not that I'm suggesting I'm as good as J.K. Rowling at all, but the point is, all it takes is one person to say, oh, there's something in this. And something could happen, even if it's the 30th person I submit to. If I get 29 rejections, but the 30th goes, yeah, we'll have a look at that, then yeah, great. So I'm not going to give up. But no, I did submit the English Hikikomori to 6 agents this year, and early next year, maybe in between now and when I come back, actually, I need to revivify that process and get back to it. Now, in terms of what I need to do next year, as well as continuing to submit the English Hikikomori, I need to finish the chapters I've detailed on Empress of the Trees, completing the first draft. There is my non-binary character. I just want to make sure I've got them right. So I do actually know a non-binary person through my writing group, and I'm I haven't made any firm decisions yet, but I'm toying with asking them to read It is a big book, that's the problem. But I'm toying with asking them to read it because I want their thoughts on the non-binary character. I haven't totally made up my mind that I'm going to do that yet, but that's something I'm considering. So what am I going to do next year? So finish this bloody first draft of Empress of the Trees, and then I'm going to do the final draft of Still Life, which I should have done ages ago. The advantage of finishing that is I can then start submitting that one out to agents, and I think in hindsight that's going to be an easier sell than the English Hikikomori. I still think I was right and will continue to try and get representation and sell the English Hikikomori because I'm very proud of it, but I think it's going to have a much, if it was ever published, I think it would have a much smaller and much more niche audience than perhaps Still Life. So yes, I should get Still Life edited, and then I need to look at the second draft of Empress of the Trees. Now, because of the work I've done so far on it, it shouldn't be as hard. That second draft shouldn't be as painful as my second drafts were before, because all of the really awful stuff, all the word repetitions, a lot of it's already done. So actually it's just going to be a case of reading through the chapters. I've already made some notes of things I need to change. There's a character I need to introduce just earlier than I do, but that's all really easy stuff to do. And now I've finally got a handle, because it took me ages to work out Ronnie, my main character. It took me ages to work out who she was and what she was about. It was literally in one of the chapters I've written this year, which is in the last probably fifth of the book. But what it does mean is now she's properly in my head. When I reread the earlier stuff, I can actually edit her, understanding her better. So that's good. So yes, I want to do the second draft of that. And then once I've done the second draft of that, it's time to start working on my sequel to Still Life. The sequel to Still Life is called, now let me get this right, Self-Portrait. I did make an abortive attempt to start writing it a couple of years ago, but I got some of the characters not quite right, I don't think. And I'm not going to totally abandon what I've already written, but there are elements of it that need rewriting from scratch, and there are elements that can pretty much stay word for word. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to write Self-Portrait, and the third book in the series, which is provisionally titled Blank Canvas. I'm going to write those as one project. So I shall use the Write Edit model, where I write a chapter, edit a chapter, and try and get both of those done in one go. Because actually, in theory, the two books together should be about the same length as Empress of the Trees. So what I'll do is I'll write them together, get the first draft done, but then I shall edit them as separate books. That's kind of my plan. How much of this I'll get done next year, God only knows, but you can find out first by tuning in to season 2 of The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. And that's it for me for this year. As I said, you've got the extra episodes, the non-numbered bonus ones coming out. But this is the last daily podcast I'm going to do this year. And I'm not going to guarantee I'm going to come back on the 1st of January. I am working until the 8th of January. Then I have the rest of January off. And I really do want to concentrate on my writing. So the latest I should be back is the 9th of January, because I do feel like I need a little break. However, I may suddenly decide to come back before that. So just, if you're subscribed. Excuse me, it'll automatically pop up in your feed. There are at least 2 or 3 people who do listen to this rubbish very regularly, and I know who you are. Thank you so much for your feedback and for listening, and I will be back soon. Take care. Thank you very much for supporting me this year, and bye-bye. You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxall. Thank you for tuning in to my random ramblings, and if you'd like to know more about me or my projects, visit my link tree at linktr.ee/Richard Wright, capital R, capital W. Thank you for listening.